Hello, football fans, and welcome to another edition of Rouge Radio. This is the CIS portion. I'm Kevin Garbuio, and I'm joined today by Andrew Wadden from Canadian CIS University Countdown, brought to you by Krown. Andrew is the co-host and analyst for that program. Andrew, take us through this week in the West. You guys were doing the Calgary game. We talked last week, myself and Donovan Bennett, about Calgary setting up for a letdown, but the real letdown this week, Regina losing to UBC. What happened there?
Well, Mark Mueller wasn't in the lineup, and that's huge. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the West. I mean, him and Eric Dulesky basically would be a 1-2 or 2-1, depending on how you want to look at it. But, it's a big blow, obviously, when you lose your leader like Mueller. And, you could see that last season with Regina as well. I mean, they would have been a much better team last year if they were able to have Mueller behind center. UBC, though, they started off their season poorly and really couldn't bounce back from things, and they're trying to now. Billy Green and the offense are kind of coming around a bit. They're running the ball a little bit more, which is more their strength. But as far as the game is concerned, UBC kind of just got to them early. Some turnovers didn't help Regina as well, and in the end, UBC was able to pull off, I wouldn't say an upset, but definitely shocked a lot of people around the CIS with the win.
Well, what can you tell us about Mark Mueller? Mueller's in the conversation right now to be the West representative for the Heck Creighton nominee. Can you tell us on his future right now and his status? Are there regular season games in doubt, or will he be out in the playoffs? Yeah, well,
he did speak to my colleague Jim Mullen via Twitter over the week, basically saying that he wants to get in there. A player is going to say that, right? Anybody who wants to compete is going to want to play, but from the looks of it, it looks like Mueller will sit out the remainder of the regular season and start in the playoffs. Obviously don't quote me on that because, someone like Mark, especially missing a full season last year, when your CIS career is only so long, so you want to get in as much as you can, but, he's going to have to be healthy for Regina to win ball games, and I think he knows that as well. So I think the best thing for Mueller probably would be to sit out until the postseason now. They do have a couple of big games coming up, so that they're going to have to take care of business. So, maybe he'll sit out next week and then return the following week. I think it kind of all depends on the result of their game next week. And they face off. I've got to take a look at it in my schedule right now. But, they're one of those things where if Mueller's in the lineup, they definitely have a better chance to win. And I think he knows that and everyone knows that. But at the same time, if he's broken, they're going to have to look at things realistically, because you do not want to have, a broken Mark Mueller going into the postseason. And, of course, next week, as I told my schedule here, they play Calgary. So, it's at home for them, but it's going to be a tough test. I could see Mueller returning for the final game of the season against Alberta, but, he'll probably sit out the next two, and then if they can pull one, maybe two victories out of that, although Calgary will be a tough hill for them to climb. But if they can get at least one out of those next two, they'll guarantee themselves a playoff spot, and then healthy Mueller can possibly guarantee them, or at least give them a better chance to win come the postseason.
And the other Saskatchewan team, the Saskatchewan Huskies, they gutted out a 44-39 win against Manitoba, which was a huge victory, both now at 3-3 records. I'm looking at the box score, and you see Manitoba only having 13 first downs, 346 yards of total offense. Saskatchewan, 44 first downs, 625 yards. How was the score so close?
That's a good question. Turnovers, definitely. But I'll tell you what, Chase Bradshaw had just a phenomenal game for the Huskies. I'm making everybody forget about Drew Burko. Tosses for over 400 yards on the day. Just an enormous effort from him. What a fantastic game, though. The Huskies scored 28 points in the final 15 minutes to come behind and take it. What was possibly one of the games of the year now. Of course, with the wins, Husky is 3-3, and they hold the tiebreaker over the Bisons, who are also at 3-3 on the season. And that tiebreaker they hold by a single point. So big win there by Sasky. And, turnovers will kill you. And in the end, it killed the Bisons. And Bradshaw and company were able to pull out the W.
An interesting matchup there. Moving on forward, moving into the OUA. Another upset, another big matchup. Guelph against Queens. Guelph trailing in that game, coming back against Queens. And historically, Queens' defense is usually once they're up, they stay up with Pat Tracy as defensive coordinator. How does Guelph come back against Queens and do what they did, scoring 16 unanswered points in the second half?
I can only go by what I've been reading about that game. We're trying to put together the highlight packages for the Krown Canadian University Countdown show for this week, and we do not have currently the Queens Guelph one, so I haven't seen any video just yet. Mind you, I haven't ducked over to the Queens or the Guelph websites to see if they've have any, but what a game for Guelph. I mean, this is a team in Queens that earlier in the season I was, kind of tooting their horn a little bit. I'm a big fan of Billy McPhee, Ryan Gramberg, great running back, and Justin Champlain, of course, has connections to BC, his dad being the offensive coordinator for the BC Lions. But, that Queens team and Guelph very well matched up, and Guelph, they've got something going for them right now, and they have this never say die attitude. They went into Western, or they played, they were able to beat Western, and then with this one coming, I think it was 30 unanswered points or something like that Guelph scored. So, they're able to do it because I think they're just working as one right now. We had Donovan Bennett from The Score, who obviously is a big OUA insider, on our show last week, and he was telling us how Guelph, they're very focused and everybody's kind of working as one, and they seem to be clicking right now, and that's exactly what they did over the weekend. Huge win for them. I don't know if I necessarily want to call it an upset per se, because they're pretty evenly matched, those two teams, but I think maybe early in the season people like myself kind of jumped on that Queens bandwagon, but I'm actually kind of jumping over to the Griffins bandwagon right now because I really like what I'm seeing out of Jazz Lindsay and the offense that surrounds him for the Griffins. They probably could have used a little defense on the day this weekend, but their offense was able to pull it out, and what a great victory for them. And I'll tell you what, they're going to move up the rankings this week in the top 10, that's for sure.
Definitely. Last week they were barely in the top 10 despite beating Western. Questions about that victory, saying Western's quarterbacks were out. They were down to their third stringer, and they blew the lead. Coming back against Queens, and like you said, they were down 28-3, come back, win 33-28. Jazz Lindsay in his second year, putting up very efficient performances, not so much in yardage, but just not turning the ball over and giving his team a chance. And also moving on in the OUA from a team that we're talking about, a team on the upswing with Guelph. Team that was supposedly dying is Ottawa. Next thing you know, the overthrow of the coach with Coach Gary Echeverry in the turnover. Ottawa now starting to string some wins together, winning against Waterloo 61-0.
Who would have saw that? When we started looking at the scores over the weekend, and I kind of had to double take when I saw that. Just excellent effort there from the GGs, and you got to keep in mind though that this is a team that had, I believe it's 21 starters return from last season, something like that, or 21 guys that have been with the team for a long time, and they're a veteran group that just wasn't responding to Gary Echeverry. Of course, they make the coaching change, and from what I'm hearing from sources is that they're kind of doing the coaching by committee. The players are the ones that have figured out their offense. Of course, they dropped that double wing offense that just wasn't working for them under Echeverry. Now they've rattled off 2 straight victories, and they could start getting into playoff consideration if they can get themselves another win. And it's a team that really was a lot better than what they look like, or what they showed at least early on in the season. And then they made the coaching change, and it seems that the players are responding. I mean, it's not really a big opponent in taking down Waterloo, but the way they did it just shows you that this team was definitely a lot better than what we've originally thought they were.
Well, with this week coming up in Ottawa now in the picture, obviously they need to handle their business next week. They have to win. They're playing against Western, not an easy matchup. U of T, they have to win. That's also a tough matchup. They're playing against Queens. And Laurier, they have to win, and they're playing against McMaster. So those are the bubble teams that we have there. It's pretty interesting right now who their opponents are to get into the playoffs.
You know what I mean, and I think you can chalk a loss for all 3 of those games in terms of the big boys playing against the little guys there, and it's obviously going to be a tough task for Ottawa. I mean, one thing that Ottawa really can pull out of this season right now is, playing a little bit of spoiler. Like you said, they do have to play against Western next week at home, though, so they do have that going for them. Western may not be, the Western that we've seen in the past, but they do have a lot of weapons. Garrett Sanvito, possibly the best running back in all of Canada right now. So it's going to be tough for Ottawa. I would give them, an outside shot, but, I don't really see them pulling it off against Western next week. It's going to be a tough one.
I agree. That's going to be a really interesting matchup. And the other one is York has to play against Guelph, and Guelph needs to win that. So all across, if it stays as it is right now, Laurier will be in at that 6th spot. And everyone was saying about how this team, despite how young they are, was a team in the decline, and this will be a down year. Still making the playoffs is impressive for a team that's supposedly supposed to be going downhill.
Yeah, and Laurier's got some decent pieces. They're one of those teams though, and you see it amongst the whole CIS. There's the contenders and there's the pretenders, and you got to put Laurier in that pretenders sort of group. They're not in the upper echelon of the OUA, the Max, the Guelphs, and Queens, and possibly can put Western into that conversation. Though I kind of think that Western put into that conversation because they are Western and. They're kind of like the New York Yankees of the CIS, basically. Actually, kind of more like the Toronto Maple Leafs of the CIS, to actually put it in a better perspective, considering that they are so well-renowned, but they don't really win all the time. So the Golden Hawks are, again, they're middle of the pack sort of OUA team. They get themselves into the playoffs. In my opinion, they get themselves into the playoffs. That's a successful season for them. Because I just don't see, a team like Laurier, a team like Ottawa, even Toronto, being able to, step up against a team like McMaster, Guelph, or Queens.
Well, especially since Laurier won the Vanier Cup, but that was with Potasic as the OC. Since losing Potasic to McMaster, they haven't really been able to do that much on offense. They haven't seemed to have as much firepower as they have had in the past.
Yeah, well, exactly. And, you lose key pieces, not only players, but coaches can be key pieces as well. And, you lose a key piece like that too, McMaster. Look what McMaster's doing now. It obviously helps that they have guys like Kyle Quinlan behind center for them. But coaching goes a long way, and when you're grooming kids or young men like the guys that play in the CIS, you kind of have to have those mentors, those guys that know what they're talking about. And sometimes skill is obviously one thing, but sometimes just being prepared is another thing as well. And then that's what a good coach will do for you. And obviously you can see that McMaster, not only do they have the skill, they're also very well prepared.
Well, speaking about great coaching and moving on forward, we're moving to Quebec. Montreal versus Laval this week, and you have two of the best coaches in the CIS with Danny Machocha in Montreal, Coach Glenn Constantine in Laval. Laval losing this weekend by by a fraction of a point. Montreal 23, Laval 20. Montreal unable to defeat them by the 20 points needed. So Laval now holding serve in the Dunsmore. What does that mean for home field advantage in the Dunsmore playoffs?
Oh, it's massive. You can see what just happened over the last couple of weeks. Look at the way Laval handled Montreal at home. Then they have to go down south to play against Montreal, and then gave them a good game. But it's a different Laval squad when they've got the 18,000 people there. It's just a much different environment to come into, and obviously the Rouge et Or are used to playing in front of their home crowd, and they're able to get these home field advantages because of having that big crowd and making it an environment that is very tough to play in. So it's massive for the Rouge et Or, and any team that's going to have to go in there to face them is not only going to have to face off against the team on the field, but also the team in the crowd, and that's. Those guys are just huge for the Rouge et Or. Montreal is a good team, but they have to dig deep if they're going to want to win on the road, especially in a place like Laval.
Yeah, at the bottom right now of the Quebec standings, we have Concordia, who had to self-report themselves for using ineligible players. They beat McGill. This hurts McGill now. It's opportunities to make the playoffs. We've talked about in the past on the show, especially with Mo Khan, about how McGill's striving to make the playoffs this year, else they might go over to the OUA if they can't compete. Losing to Concordia like that has to be a death blow for their playoff hopes.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, that's a win they've got to get. It's unfortunate that Concordia had to give up their wins because of the ineligible player, but I mean, ask UBC about about losing wins, and they'll tell you how much it hurts. But yeah, no, big blow for McGill, and I said it on our television show. I'm not a fan of McGill moving over to the OUA. I don't think it'll help them at all. I think they're better suited in the Q, keeps the balance of the conference at 6 teams. One of those. This week, of course, was massive for McGill. They had to get the win. They didn't get it, and now they're probably going to be looking on the outside, looking in when it comes to playoff time. But the program has had some success this year, and I think moving forward that, like I said, they'd be better suited in the Q. Of course, that's just my opinion. I would not like to see them in the OUA. I think they would just be sitting kind of where they are now in the Q. I think they could kind of move themselves up into a playoff team in the next couple of seasons. But in the OUA, I mean, we were just talking about, you've got teams like Laurier, you've got teams like Ottawa, I mean, even Toronto to a lesser degree that are building up their programs right now. And I mean, even Windsor's in that discussion as well. So you throw McGill in there, and I don't even know if they're quite in that same territory as some of those teams I mentioned in the O. So they're probably better suited to be in the Q. And this week, of course, big blow for their season this year. But moving forward, aspirations of making the playoffs next year should definitely be in McGill's sights.
Agree that with their new coaching staff, they should be able to start making the move moving forward, and especially with that alumni support. Again, talking about Concordia had to self-report, similar to what UBC did last year, lose with all those losses. That affected the AUS. So X now, given that win despite losing to Concordia, they now moved up to 2 and 3, tied for second in the AUS with St. Mary's. This weekend, Acadia defeated X by a score of 47-26, clinching first in the AUS. We now have a 3-way tie for second or fourth, depending on how you look at it in the AUS. What do you see with that coming out of that? I know Acadia's strength. Do you see any other team being able to topple the Axemen this year?
No, not at all. I mean, this conference to me is just one team, and that's it. It's Acadia. They're really the only team in the whole conference that can kind of hang with, some of the bigger teams around the CIS. So, I to be honest with you, I don't even really think it matters what plays out in the AUS, because it's all going to come down to Acadia coming out of it and moving on. I believe the crossover this year is Canada West and Ontario. So Acadia will have to face off against the winner of the Q. Like I said, I don't think that any of the other teams in the AUS could even come close to being in the same sort of ballpark as as Laval or someone like that. Acadia is just hands down the best team in the conference, and it's unfortunate because there have been some good programs in the AUS, but again, these things work in cycles, and at the moment right now, Acadia seems to be the cream of the crop, and I would be very surprised if anyone can knock them off the top there.
Yeah, I was working the game this weekend on Axe TV, and you see the teams like X, and you see them losing potential, but unable to grasp it right now. And it seems a problem in the AUS watching Acadia and their success right now is that they're still not on all cylinders, which is a positive that they still have room to improve, but they don't really have that foil to bring the best out of them, much like they had with St. Mary's in the past, where you have that team that we have to beat St. Mary's, and we'll see next week if they get up to beat St. Mary's, already knowing they have nothing left to play for in the regular season.
Well, they better get up, because they're going to have a big task ahead of them moving forward. And maybe that is the problem with Acadia right now. Maybe they're just, the opponents they're playing are just too weak for them to play against. I mean, maybe it's one of those things that maybe we look at Acadia possibly moving over to the Q, although I doubt that would happen. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to get up for games when you're miles ahead of the other team, and it's, like I said, it's unfortunate that the programs in the AUS right now are kind of suffering a little bit, but things do work in cycles, and I'm sure that those schools like St. Mary's and St. FX and Mount Allison, obviously they're going to want to improve, and hopefully that they'll take the proper steps moving forward to do so.
Well, thanks for joining us today, Andrew. Andrew Wadden from Krown CIS University Countdown on Shaw TV. And where else can we see this, Andrew?
You can see it nationally. It's just basically on Shaw television here in Vancouver, Calgary, Edmonton, Regina, and Saskatoon. It's also broadcast on Cogeco in Kingston, Ontario. And then if we don't reach out to anywhere where you are, then you can always check it out on YouTube. Just search Krown Canadian University Countdown.